All right, we're live. We're
Hey,
back. We're back on game scrapbooking. I guess minus the scrapbooking,
yeah,
just the game part. Um, so we're getting close to the end of Final Fantasy Mystic Quest. We have Mount Gale. We have the Max ship, and then I think we have the final dungeon. I think that's what's left.
it's hard to believe. What a long, strange trip it's been. Uh, I yeah, it's been really fun. And I know that we've been talking about this many times, so this is just a continuation of a long-standing conversation. But I am really impressed by how well you remember all of the dungeons and content. I do not. This has just been more or less from beginning to end a wonderful new experiencing. Like, and you know what? And I was thinking about this when I was a kid. There were games that I would play, and I'll even be specific. Breath of Fire 3 on the PS1.
Yes.
Um, I mean I love all of the Breath of Fire games. And I don't think Breath of Fire has come up that often in our conversation.
No, it hasn't. Although I have opinions, but I please continue.
Cool. Well, given our predilection for talking about Dragon Quest while we play Mystic Quest, it'll give our viewers something to something new to chew on. Uh, so um, in Breath of Fire 3, there's one moment that perhaps I don't know is to me as a child felt like a big surprise. And maybe if I was a grown up, it wouldn't have been a big surprise. But there's a betrayal. There's in fact there's a couple of betrayals. Um, and I I loved the game so much, and I played it, and I would tell myself, I want to play this game again, but I want to experience it as if I'm playing it for the first time.
Mm-hmm.
And so so I would check in with myself, and I would like basically ask myself the question, do I still remember the twist or the
And
betrayals? And if the answer was yes, then I would be like, well, I can't play it again yet because enough time hasn't elapsed. And like even to this day, however many tens of years later, um, well, I remember those twists, and so it seems likely that I will never forget those twists.
isn't part of the problem remembering that there is a twist, right?
Yeah, yeah, yes. I
It's
think I'm
like,
doing myself a disservice, or it's an uphill battle. That the mnemonic device or whatever, the litmus test that I'm using to decide whether or not I have sufficiently forgotten enough of the game is that I'm asking myself, there's a twist. But that actually segues beautifully into what playing Mystic Quest has helped me realize is you can remember a couple of things about a game. You can remember that because
mm,
the Earth Crystal has been stolen, everybody has aged prematurely. Like you can remember that you're pushing blocks in an ice
right.
chasm. And even if those two memories are like seared in your brain and you feel very, very confident about them, if you're so focused on just a couple of things, it allows your brain the space to utterly forget about every other aspect of
That's
the
right.
game.
It's like you've
So,
replaced it with those little tokens, right?
yes,
Like, oh, Mystic Quest, that's the game with the Ice Palace and you're pushing the blocks around. Or I had to call
so,
the Nintendo helpline and get, that's like, they're very salient. Um, uh, 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 and it's like looking at it's like how you can't see the stars during the daytime because the sun is just so bright. That
Yes.
they're there, but they're overwhelmed completely.
And in this way, I think I have realized that asking myself the question of do I remember the twist was in fact like that was a sun blinding me to the fact that I have undoubtedly by this point forgotten
Yeah.
surely everything else there is to know about Breath of Fire 3.
In Breath of Fire 3, I remember the side quest where you have to make sushi.
No recollection.
I remember the like fairy town that you have to build.
Okay, I remember Fairy Town.
I remember there's the part where there's like the desert, and it's like you have to cross the desert in like this weird first person mode, and it's like so perplexing. At least to kid me, it was very perplexing, and I never actually completed the game because
I never completed the desert.
Well, this is just more evidence for the hypothesis that we somehow had cursed game consoles or something, and we're psychically linked. Yeah, even with like a walkthrough, I don't think I was able to figure it out.
Me neither, and I would imagine I had the same walkthrough that you did, and we have talked about walkthroughs.
You know, I think this is just one of those things where like it was a badly designed encounter, right?
Yeah.
And probably while it is a very shocking experience to, especially for people who are like video game people, to be like, oh, I never was able to get past this part. Especially in a role-playing game where the only limiting factor is time.
Yeah.
I bet there are a lot of people with a similarly deep-held mix of shame and disgust about the Verschlungener desert area in Breath of Fire 3. That's funny.
And like, I have like. And the game, well, I forget if the game has it built in or if I just was save scumming. But absolutely, I like restarted the desert many times. And like, as you keep walking, your party gets like progressively more like desperate and hopeless.
I don't remember the dialogue, but there's like random battles, right? And you like run out of. There's like stamina or something that's getting used up, like your resources, your regular like.
Yeah. But there's also you put up you can only walk at night because of like temperature, and also you're like guiding by the stars. So you like, if I remember correctly, you set up camp during the days, and you can like check in and like talk with your party members, and like. My recollection is at the beginning of that journey, people are like in high spirits, and like if you are walking in the wrong direction, or presumably walking in the wrong direction, they are saying desperate things like, "We're going to die out here, and we'll never see civilization again." Like my brain has like escalated it, at least in the times, and I remember it really affected me.
That was a very interesting game. I liked that. So in this game, Breath of Fire, you are a person who is also a dragon. That's like the conceit of this whole series, right?
Yes.
Not to be confused with the series Like a Dragon, which is
where you're just a person,
right?
And in fact, not a dragon at all, is my understanding.
I know, and to be fair, they never claim that you are indeed a dragon.
Yeah. It's definitely a simile. Definitely an analogy.
At any rate, in Breath of Fire, you are an actual dragon, although in human form.
Yes.
So this game had an interesting one where there were like dragon genes or something, right? And you could become different dragons by picking a different pair of dragon-like components to mix together. I
So it'd be
remember
like an electricity dragon or a fire dragon.
well, like water, and there were like different sprites and graphics and abilities and stuff for different combinations of those things. I remember one was like a big frog, essentially.
Yeah,
That's the one
yeah.
I recall. And much like Final Fantasy Mystic Quest, you had your like character on the overworld could like do little actions to interact with the environment, right?
Yes.
Like there was the inventor person with a little explosive thing, and there was
Yep.
the vegetable guy, and there was the dude with an axe or whatever. Like all these little
Yeah.
different things, right?
Yeah.
Um,
Love it.
yeah, very evocative setting, I feel. And like the other kind of recurring thing in Breath of Fire is there's like a character, you can fly, right? In each game, there's like a thing you can get where you can start flying around the map to travel quickly. And in this one, it was like one of your teammates turned into the flying apparatus, right? Is that correct? I know that was Breath of Fire 1 as well, I think.
I mean, certainly, just as one of the conceits is you're a dragon, a similar conceit is that you always befriend a winged person.
Yeah.
But I don't exactly remember the.
Some of the earlier, some kind of blurs together for me. Some of the, I've played 3 Breath of Fire games, but I have never completed a Breath of Fire game.
Interesting.
I have not. So I had a friend who was really into Breath of Fire, and
Okay.
he had played through. I watched him like fight the last boss of, I want to say Breath of Fire 2. Is it a recurring thing that you're always like fighting God at the end? Is that like a typical?
Oh, isn't that how all JRPGs
Not all.
go?
I mean, many. It's a trope. Like Tyr was the boss of this one. I think it was Breath of Fire 2, I believe.
And I guess just full disclaimer. So I have finished Breath of Fire 1 and Breath of Fire 4. Oh, and also Breath of Fire 5. So I was never able to finish 2, and I was never able to finish 3.
But I seem to recall that it kind of came out of nowhere, right? In the same way that like Zeromus or whatever comes out of nowhere in Final Fantasy 4. It's just like, and it turns out all the problems were being caused by blah blah blah, right? This kind of
I'm sorry,
situation.
who?
By like whatever this like recently introduced actual big bad, right?
Got it.
But you know, it was secondhand for me, so maybe I missed the setup for that. Yeah, Breath of Fire. I always thought that they were like alien artifacts because they inherited a really different set of kind of assumptions and styles and like vibes compared to other role-playing games, like the Square Enix ones.
Like you could, yeah, as you say, like interact with the map.
And like characters were drawn from a different perspective. Like the perspective drawing for the battle sprites was more like
yes!
ogre battle than it was like Final Fantasy or something. It's like the 3/4 like front view rather than the side view.
Yep.
I guess Suikoden was like a
same
3/4
as
back view, right?
Suikoden.
I feel like with Suikoden you see the backs of people's heads a lot. Was Breath of Fire like that too, or do you see are the characters like more turned towards the camera? I can't recall which was which.
Oh man, I mean, in it was like, and again, another indication that I have enough time has elapsed that I've forgotten. I'm having a perspective of you see the like basically the same as Suikoden is what I'm envisioning. You
Okay.
see the monsters turned towards the camera, and you see your guys facing away from you, turns.
Oh
towards
yeah.
Is my recollection. Yeah.
That makes sense.
But yeah, no, definitely different from the side view of Square Enix games of Final Fantasy.
And of course, in the Dragon Quest games, there was no view of your characters during the battle at all.
Yes. Yes, Dragon Quest did it Earthbound style. Or Earthbound did it Dragon Quest style, I suppose. I you know. So you said that you had like strong opinions. Is this like about the desert? Is it about the big bad kind of being disconnected from the previous events?
Um,
Is it this like alien artifact
yeah,
situation?
it's more that. Yeah, I feel like the Breath of Fire games seemed to often include. I didn't have much of an impression of Breath of Fire one. I played through like a third of it, and then I kind of like lost interest in it.
Mm-hmm.
But I think they often played with some really interesting ideas.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but for me, the they were often like tripped up by something, right? Like
Interesting.
and sort of fell apart in the end.
Hmm.
To the extent where I like couldn't finish them, couldn't get through the this barrier to enjoyment. And I think there were a number of these like scattered throughout the games. Like in Breath of Fire 3, for example, every like there is this part where you have to collect ingredients and make sushi. There's like a fishing mini game. There's like a variety of mini games, and I just
Yes.
remember feeling like that, and like some of the dungeons, I just felt like parts of it were a bit of a slog. That's all.
Yeah.
And this
Yeah.
isn't, of course, it's not unique to
Sure.
Breath of Fire.
Sure. But
Um,
you did find it kind of like consistently arise at different moments throughout.
yeah, and I was like, I wanted to like it. Like I wanted to finish it, but
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't get past something, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
I I
I
I oh yeah
Well, I was
no
just
no
gonna say I really want to try Breath of Fire 4 sometime. That's the one where it's like starts in a mine, right? And you're like, uh, or maybe it's 5. There's the one where you have like a limited amount of dragon transformation you
that's
can do.
five.
That's
That's
5. I
five.
see 5.
Five is the kind of like roguelike one.
Yeah,
Yeah. Uh, I I really like five. I think I played five not in the way that you're like supposed to, because I
mm,
think that you are like supposed to lose a run and then you come back and you have like a rank that like increases that like unlocks access to like new items, which is supposed to make your like next run easier.
I see.
But I believe that's not how I played the game. I just played the game wanting to beat it. And like when I got a game over, I just treated it like it was a game over. And
Oh,
I,
interesting.
yeah,
Oh,
uh,
try to do a 1 credit clear.
yes, 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 and I like, and I say that, but like, if I'm being honest, and also to be clear to you and anyone who's watching, that choice wasn't coming from like a point of pride. That choice was coming from it like the game did a really good job of making sure that you understood that like it was a permadeath situation. Like
Yeah,
if you lose, you lose. And so I got that. But the exact relationship of like, well then what happens after you lose was kind of confusing to me.
so it
And
felt like, oh, I should just I may as well reset or
yeah,
whatever,
yeah,
right?
exactly. Exactly. And this is actually okay. This is this is shifting topics. I mean, it's absolutely built off of this, but it's like a more generic conversation. And it's something that I feel kind of sheepish about, but is I think true. Although I would say that this is not generally the case for me. Sometimes, for whatever reason, I am I am like scared of the game over screen.
You know,
Like,
I think this is rational. I think especially as somebody who was probably playing like NES games, um, some of them were like quite upsetting, especially for a kid, because it's like frustration, it's loss of time, it's anti-validation, right? I'm thinking of the like Zelda or Zelda 2
yep,
game over
yep,
screens in particular, where you get even like
yep,
a spooky laugh, right?
yep, yep.
And that's like I think that's becomes quite ingrained, right? That like losing is um
Uh,
It has like an element of fear to it, right?
yes, yes. Like and in particular, like I think the Zelda 2 is a good example. Even though I think that like that one like has a typo in it, which maybe like you know let some of the air out of the
Ah, yeah.
tire, if I'm remembering. But like things like the Zelda one are a good one because it's like
You should feel bad for losing.
you should feel bad for losing, and specifically because here you like God, it's like it is a reminder that one's mortality, like the world presses onwards, even when you have died.
Oh
And
yeah.
like normally in a quote unquote normal game over screen, it just says game over, and you can be like, great,
Like
well, yeah,
rewind.
end of the
Yeah.
game, and basically my character was the center of the universe, and now that they're dead, there is nothing interesting and nothing is happening. It's just like end of the story, end of everything. But in those moments where it has like the villain gloating, or you see other consequences of like,
It's
well,
like
this
the
is what
return
the
of
world
Ganon.
looks like now that you've lost, is like this terrifying, like, oh man, like I
It's not just I gotta
I
put in
let
another
these
quarter.
people down, and like the world continues without this force of good. It like it reinforces the idea that like evil has won.
Yeah.
Um and I yeah, anyway. So cool. Thank you for validating me. And for whatever reason, and whether it's justified or not, I think I was too scared to see the Breath of Fire 5 game over screen, even though maybe it was actually extremely benign. I don't know.
For all you know, it was like you got like 17 whatever points, and now you get
Yeah,
to
yeah,
do
yeah,
whatever.
yeah. As
Like,
far as
good
I know,
job.
it's just a tally of your
Yeah.
score. Yeah. Uh huh. Yeah.
Yeah. Um, I think of the Chrono Trigger, the future refused to change thing, and that's like
Joe,
it hit pretty hard.
that is maybe among my all-time game over screens that then started making me afraid of game over screens.
Yes.
Absolutely.
And it doesn't even show you like an epilogue, right? It's actually that's all it says. It just fades out on that. And I think does it well, maybe it shows you some
I think
version of like the
I
Lavos
remember it
thing, right?
showing like an epilogue. I remember it showing
The Day of Lavos or something.
the Day of Lavos. Yeah, like
But not the whole
1999,
clip,
right?
right? Like just some still from it or something, right? I don't know. Maybe
I mean, and again, I know that I've said this a zillion times today and on the show. I remember there being a cutscene of characters from 1999, which from Chrono and Friends' perspective is the distant future. So we don't know them. We have no idea who they are, but they're living in Gardenia Castle or whatever, and like they are surprised and taken aback by Lavos, and Lavos
I know
like
that's like the cutscene, like the little memory thing you see. But I think that the game over is just the planet exploding. Just like the little red circle explosion things against the planet and then the text, I believe.
oh, but wait. Well, what? I'm sorry. What's the difference of like cutscene memory
Well,
and
like
that?
there's the part where you go to the computer in the future and you see the first time you go to 2300 or whatever and you find out
Oh,
what happened on the Day of Lavos.
got it. And so you don't see that again in the game over?
I don't believe so. Maybe like against the boss or something. Maybe if you lose in like the final boss or something. But I believe it's a regular game over is just the but the
Yeah.
future refused
No,
to change with the.
that's what I'm sorry. That's what I'm referring to. Losing against Lavos. I think.
Oh no! Okay.
Yeah, no. And I do agree that I think that in just a normal game over screen, I think it just maybe says like the future refused to change. That rings a bell.
Yeah, I think losing against Lavos gives you that. Yeah, everybody's panicking,
Yeah.
direct attack on truths, all that stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
I think that's a
All right.
really good way to give extra weight to the final boss fight, because I think often against the final boss it's just like a regular game over, right?
Yeah. Yes, I agree. But it's interesting that it gives added weight to it for your second playthrough, because you don't know that you're going to see a scary game over screen on your first playthrough.
Oh, I just mean like it makes the game over itself so consequential. Feels so
Yeah.
consequential when you
Yeah.
when you lose the first time.
Yes. Yes. Completely. Completely. Yeah. I from like an artistry standpoint, I love it, and from a experiential standpoint, I like it messed me up. Like I did not like that.
Because it seems because then it's almost like it feels like you should get to do another thing after, right? It's like, oh, this is maybe that was supposed to happen, right? Maybe that was a forced loss.
Yeah, yeah, yes, 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 and that's a whole other trope of these games that we
Yes.
haven't talked about. The expected loss, the intended loss, and I think that is, Joe, I think that you are putting your finger on it. I went into that fight, I think, woefully underprepared. It was really hard for me. I lost, and I am gauging to myself, like, was I supposed to be able to do this? I don't think so. I think it was like too hard. I think I'm supposed to lose. And then you see a cutscene, which usually is a surefire.
Yeah, definitely. That was
like, cool. Yep, the story is progressing. Yep, there's a whole cutscene.
like bad things are happening, but that's because they're supposed to happen. It's not my fault.
And then for it to just end, like so much energy was invested in crafting this cutscene and the story, and then like the added, yeah, like defiance of expectations, or like subversion of expectations of like, oh, cutscenes in this context mean this. And it's like, well, not this time. Really, like I think that was also part of it. Was like, not only was it tragic, but it's my video game sensibilities prepared me to expect, like, oh, it's going to be okay, right?
Right, and then it just wasn't.
Okay.
Yeah.
Joe, if you had asked me an hour ago, how do you feel about like the endings of Chrono Trigger, I think I would have just been like, oh yeah, like I know that there's like a dozen of them, and I only got like the one. No, I got the two. I forgot about that one.
yeah, and because it is an ending, right? Like usually games don't have. I mean, dating simulators and stuff, like many games have bad endings, but
Sure. Yeah,
but role-playing games don't typically have a bad end. At least they didn't in the 90s and
Sure.
80s and 90s and early 2000s, right?
Yes.
And even if they did, it was quite brief, like in Zelda 2, where it's like, I guess Ganon's coming back, Return of Ganon, ha ha ha. Yeah.
Well, jumping back, Breath of Fire 5 is really interesting. I was definitely resistant to it at first because it makes a lot of really bold choices that deviate from all of the previous installments. But I think once you just accept that this is just a different game, I found it to be really quite pleasurable to explore.
I want to give it a try sometime. Was it PlayStation 2 or PlayStation?
I believe it was PlayStation 2.
I thought so too, because Breath of Fire 3 was PlayStation, and it would be surprising to have 3 on one console.
Yeah,
the Breath
3.
of Fire games.
I believe 3 was like Breath of Fire 1 and 2 were Super Nintendo. Breath of Fire 3 and 4 were PS1, and I believe Breath of Fire 5 was PS2.
Oh, I want to point out to you, in the far northeast of this map, like north of where you are now, there's a helmet that you can get.
Amazing. Thank you.
A lot of these things are easy to miss.
Um,
Yeah.
um, 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 uh,
Up
so
that way. Yeah.
did you ever see or did you ever play Breath of Fire 4 at all?
I don't remember.
Oh, thank you for the chest. Um, so I did play it and I really liked it. And again, there's some specifics that I'm forgetting here, but one of the premises, if I'm remembering, is like, as always, you're a dragon, and then there's like another dragon walking around, and like the other dragon is, I believe, generally painted as like an evil dragon, like a bad guy, and you're kind of like set up to believe that he's, the villain. Though I also think you, if I'm remembering, I think you control him sometimes. So you
Ah, I
play
see.
as the villain, and in so doing, and this is intentional, you're meant to like sympathize with them and like you understand like, oh well, this is where they're coming from and this is what they're doing. And I believe at the end of the game or near the very end of the game, you are given a choice of like, do you want to join forces with the other dragon, uh Dragon Quest One style, Dark Lord style, and I believe that you are in fact allowed to say yes, and I believe that it leads to a bad ending. So another thing that, and also I guess you could say Dragon Quest One has a bad ending. Although, and you are gonna know this way better than I do. My understanding is that there's so many different flavors of Dragon Quest One that have been made at this point. The the severity or the implications of the bad ending of Dragon Quest One have varied from game to game.
I'm
Is
not
that
sure. I'm not sure if they have. Maybe this. I don't have a strong recollection of the different versions, but I think it's pretty expected that the Dragon Lord asks you to join him and rule Alefgard rather than fight him. And I think if you take the option, you are magically put to sleep, and that's
yes?
like the end of your story. Um, and he's like, take a rest, and then it's like, the implication is you die. I don't think that there's ever like a version where you do a heel turn and become actually like
No,
co-villain. Yeah.
that I agree. That I definitely agree. The thing, like what happens after that? Like I feel that like I thought that I read that there's versions where it's like you you wake up basically and like you're at like a church and like the priest says, or the House of Healing, and the caretaker says, oh, are you doing okay? Like you just had a really bad dream.
Oh,
Like,
interesting. I don't actually remember that. Maybe there is such a version. I don't think I've played that one. That
okay,
cheapens it a lot. I prefer the like proper game over on that one.
yeah, yeah.
I mean, it's already such a hassle to have to go all the way back through that dungeon again. Like that's
Uh-huh,
punishment on its own.
uh-huh.
Yeah, that game, that like that moment there, like there's no reason to join him. I think that's like what makes it feel like, oh, I'll just hit the button and see what happens, rather
Yeah.
than like actually he
It
doesn't have anything
being like
compelling to offer, right?
yeah, yeah. Uh,
I mean, you've got Princess Gwaelin waiting for you back at the Tentagel Castle, so like there's you're invested already in the world as it is.
yes, yes, yes. Uh, um,
That was another one where it's like the name Dragon Quest as a name is a little shaky because uh, while there are dragons, and I guess in a way in the first one you have a quest to defeat a dragon or dragon lord, you don't know he's a dragon yet. Um,
yes, yes.
it doesn't have the same.
Uh,
It's not like Breath of Fire where you are a dragon, right?
yeah,
And many of
yeah.
the games seem to have very little to do with dragons at all, except as a symbol.
Hmm. Hmm. And 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 you could replace the word quest with warrior, and it doesn't
Yeah,
change.
indeed.
Yeah.
Yes, is the dragon warrior the warrior who is a dragon, or the one who battles dragons,
Or the one who is, yes.
warring with them?
Why? Okay, okay. I'm leaning on you for your knowledge of localization. Why? Why did it? Why did it change? Why? I mean, my understanding is that it began as Dragon Quest in
Yes.
Japan, and then it was localized. They changed it to Dragon Warrior. Then
I think only Nintendo of America knows. I don't think,
okay,
as far as
that's not
I've never heard of a rationale.
interesting.
I've never heard of a rationale for why it was changed. Um, Often, at that time, Nintendo games were marketed as like toys for kids. So like
Yep.
maybe the framing, they thought like kids want to be warriors. They don't want to be questers. I'm not really sure.
Yeah. Maybe and like maybe like this is just total like speculation. Maybe the word warrior was like more commonly used, and maybe the word quest wasn't in the everyday vernacular like back
That's
then.
certainly plausible. Also, maybe there were television shows or something that would make the warrior like term more interesting or
Salient.
approachable or salient. Yeah.
Mhm. Mhm. Um, Man, this meteor spell is really good.
It is really good.
Uh, whoa, whoa! This is some dynamic animation or dynamic sprites. I like it.
The scale change is very interesting on that guy.
Yeah,
He's like a little guy on the horse, but then
yeah. He was just far away. It turns out.
way up there on top.
Yeah. So okay, so we explored this mountain and walked around,
You
and we
got the
found this
treasure.
guy. We got this treasure, and we learned that our princess is in another castle. Like we
Yes.
learned, oh, the wind crystal is actually being tampered with by some other guy in some other location.
Yes. I had forgotten that there was another location. So we're nearly through the dungeons, but there's still a couple more to go.
Got
I'm
it.
in Pazuzu's tower at the moment. Um, its layout is not too bad. It's just there's a couple of little gimmicks that you have to deal with of chasing down Pazuzu through the elevators.
Okay. Okay. Cool.
But there is the final wizard spell, Flare, available. No, Meteor. Well, no. You just got that. There's a final spell. I believe it's Flare. Yeah. And the Excalibur is also in the tower.
Yes. And so, but us killing that guy
Calmed the wind.
did calm the wind. So he was selling himself short. We like approached him and we're like, "Are you tampering with the wind crystal?" And he's like, "Nah, that's Pazuzu." But like he was still causing.
He wasn't not tampering with the wind crystal.
Yeah.
We can say.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was thinking of that trope of like fighting God at the end, and the first Saga game does that. The Final Fantasy Legend does that. You fight a creator at the top of the tower when it's supposed to be like the gateway to paradise, but it's actually just an empty room with this guy creator who's like bored and tells people that there's like you can get to paradise at the top of the tower.
That is another example of a game that I never made it very far into. It's like the idea is that you're like climbing the tower, and like each floor of the tower is like a different element,
a different world, and yeah, they're associated with some kind of element, like wind or whatever. And there's like things that you solve people's problems on each floor, and some are like sci-fi themed, and some are like fantasy, like underwater themed, and
and this is the part of it that I didn't like, is the lack of persistent identity of your characters, and you would like feed them meat.
The monster characters were like that, yeah. So there were three types of character you could have. There were humans, monsters, and mutants.
Mutants, yes.
And humans you powered up by buying them items and feeding them items, like giving them items, right?
Yeah.
Mutants powered up kind of almost like Final Fantasy II style, like the things that you did with them, they got more of.
Got it. Okay. I didn't remember that. Okay. And then, but the monsters, you would feed them meat.
The monsters, you feed them meat, and they transform into a different monster. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. That's so interesting. I just remember thinking it was cool that you could have like a robot or whatever on your party. And then like I fed the robot, and then he turned into like a bird or whatever. I'm like, I don't want that.
Yeah, that was another one of those games where it was like, it stretched quite far, right? It had a great reach, and it's not clear how well it got to where it was trying to go.
I like, okay. Oh, man, is this the game that I'm thinking of? And I know that like mini games maybe have the same confusion, but I remember maybe in like the second world, you get like directions. You get like, oh, from this palm tree, you need to walk down 5 tiles and west 3 tiles.
This is familiar to me.
And like I remember getting really stuck on that and being so confused, because it's like, what's the problem? Like I'm doing that and I'm doing that, and it's like it turned out that it was something like, well, yes, 5 south and 3 west is X marks the spot, but when you use the examine command, you're not examining the tile you're standing.
I see.
You're examining the tile you're facing, so you need to do the examine command 1 spot before X marks the spot, because now you're looking at X marks the spot, or something like that. And I remember that being like a major point of confusion as a child.
That sounds really familiar to me. And this game definitely did have something like that.
Okay, cool. Or, yeah, cool. I'm glad. I'm glad I remember.
So in this dungeon, be on the lookout for the flare spell and the Excalibur. That's
Thank you.
the checklist.
Beautiful. Oh, oops. I like that the animation of the Chimera is like just him talking, just him like opening and closing his mouth.
Oh yeah. Yeah, the boss Pazuzu needs a little bit of care around like healing and recovering status ailments. It's
Thank you.
probably one of the tougher bosses so far in terms of like actually needing to pay attention to what you're doing during the fight.
Got it. Got it.
Yeah, something about having exactly 2 party members is very it makes status effects very strong.
Yeah. Yes. It like it. I mean, because I think in mini games, the especially in like a one-on-one boss fight, like or a party on one boss fight, there's like the turn economy, and you've
Right.
got like so many more actions before they do, but here you only have two to one, and then if they petrify you, now suddenly it's 1 to 1, but like in some ways it's 0 to 1 because the one action you have like better be spent undoing the stone of the
Right. It's also possible that we are slightly underleveled just because of not
because we've been kind
exhaustively.
of like skipping a lot of
Yeah, yeah.
monsters.
Yeah, I would say Pazuzu's kind of whole deal, from the dungeon design to the encounter itself, is very much like a waiting game, like that kind of, or like a chase,
Yeah.
Because during the fight he has an ability that will reflect your attack, and you just have to like
Yes.
wait for it to go down.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And that kind of
Well,
thing.
that's nice. That's kind of cool that the design of
Yeah,
the sort of like is a reflection of his own personality, which is then further, you know,
yeah,
seen.
yeah. I don't hate it. I mean, it's an annoying thing to be the gimmick, but uh,
But at least
it's
thematically
consistent about it.
one.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I use my level in comparison to my companion's level as
Mhm.
the understanding as to like if I'm the right level or not. Also, congratulations.
Oh, thank you. It's not a race.
Oh yeah. Oh.
Yeah, those like 3 Manticore fights are just annoying.
I don't know
Hey, Ruben's back.
what they're weak against. If anything. Yikes. Weak against water attack. Oh, not that weak. Oof. Ouch. Ouch. Very annoying.
Yeah, so pretty much all you have to do is, you go up the tower, you come down the tower, um, hit the elevator switches where you can. At one point, Pazuzu will try to, you'll encounter him and he'll escape, and you have to find him again and then catch him again, essentially. It's very um, artificially extended, let's say.
Okay. Well, these wizards are no joke either. Oh, I like that the floating wizards are casting Quake though. That feels nice. They're casting the spell that they're unaffected by. Right.
So yeah, besides PlayStation support, I've been working on just related features around things like not having to download the entire game into memory, like RAM, before playing it.
Oh,
So for NES
okay.
and SNES games, it doesn't matter, and we'll continue to do it the way we do it. But for PlayStation games, it becomes quite relevant because there's no reason
Yes.
you would need to download like all 3 discs of Final Fantasy VII to start playing it.
Yes. Yes.
So that's been there's a combination of things we needed to do to make that happen, and one of them is running the game off of the main browser thread, which I think will also help with things like audio crackling and just general performance. And we're also looking at like a bring your own data kind of version where when you access a citation, it says, well, like, do you have a file with this checksum and a file with this checksum? They should be like this size and be like, because we, for general public use, of course, we can't be distributing copyrighted material. It
Yes.
would never dream of it.
Yes. Of course. Of course not.
You and I, of course, both own
I'm
physical
sorry.
copies of this game, so it's fine. Uh, and that would be the other way to like have that database of citations, and be able to like share and access them easily, without requiring, without distributing the material itself. Yes. So we have
Gotcha.
these 2 kinds of mechanisms that we're introducing to support more scalable use cases. And it's also nice because then we don't need to transfer 600 megabytes over the network. We can just like, you have it on your computer already and you don't need to wait for it to download or anything.
What like goes into that to like set that up?
So we use a compiler toolchain and runtime called mscripten,
Okay.
which compiles essentially C code or LLVM bitcode to JavaScript or WebAssembly. And it also has a small like POSIX style C runtime. So the stuff that you would expect to find in an operating system,
Yeah.
things like
Hmm.
reading and writing files or timers or threads or things like that. All presented so that it can look as much like a C runtime as possible. The RetroArch cores we use are already ported to mscripten. That like happened because of other people,
Okay. Yes.
including the RetroArch front end also ported to mscripten. Um, and so we're able to use that work. I've been tweaking software where necessary, the RetroArch front end where necessary, and our sort of code we use to integrate the different pieces um, to support these this different way, right, of making it so that the program runs as like in a background thread rather than being like on the main thread.
Gotcha.
Yes. Right now I'm working on features for mscripten itself to be able to like lazily fetch pieces of files rather than downloading the entire file at once. So that's like a contribution I'm making to their like to that open source project.
That's that's nice of you.
Well,
But
it's
then,
helpful for me as well. So I think there's a lot of these like places where I'm improving something because I need it, right? And
sure,
it's nice
but
that
then you're
it's good
actually
that they're able
sharing.
to like take those that they're interested in taking those changes is
Yes.
also it's a good thing. I appreciate that about those projects.
Hmm. Hmm. Like they recognize the
Yeah,
value,
that it's like useful. Yeah.
appreciative of your efforts.
Oops. You
Okay,
have flair.
got Flare.
You're doing
Now all
great.
that remains is Excalibur. Sure.
So
Doesn't
go
it
ahead.
always? Oh,
Go
what's
ahead.
that? Oh, it feels good sometimes when you flip a switch and it only goes in one direction.
Yes.
It's just like cool. It's like I thought maybe this was gonna be a puzzle. Nah, you just flip the switch. It must be good. Or the game has soft locked me now. So Joe,
Yes.
it looks like you're doing some pretty exciting stuff right now. Well, look at that cool ship you're on.
I'm on a cool ship. We are. at the, I believe, penultimate dungeon. Um, once you're past Pazuzu's tower.
Hmm. Hmm.
Um,
I'm almost there.
yep, you just um, you keep going up, and then you go
And then you
down.
go down.
Uh, keep an eye out as you go for the Excalibur, and there's
Okay.
a switch as well. Many switches, and then it's just a matter of chasing down Pazuzu. And I didn't mention it, but we got the big empty lake situation was resolved, and the ship is afloat again. But
Oh,
I think
excellent.
next week, I want we can roll through that a little more slowly. While you're
Okay.
doing it, we can talk about it, and because it's kind of a big uh, opening up, right, of a thing that had been closed for so long.
Yes, yes, yes. So we can take a moment to appreciate
Yeah.
the change.
That staircase was fine. There's on this floor. There's two ways to go down, and they both take you to the same place. Wait, go back.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I had to convince myself, but yes, I agree.
Oh, but you want to continue to go that way though.
What's that?
The way that you with where you found the flare spell and stuff. There's more. You need
Got it.
to continue going down
Okay,
since you've already reached the top. You need to find
gotcha,
a way to
gotcha.
continue going down.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
Um, through the little bombed area there. Yeah, I believe.
Oh, I thought I.
Or
Uh,
yeah, and then to the not the bombed area. Sorry, there's like another. There's a
but
switch
that,
that you hit the
I think I
switch
see. I just need to go
to the left.
to the
Yeah.
left.
All right.
Cool.
Well, good luck. If you want to get to like the end
Yeah,
of Pazuzu, then you can
might be a good
we
idea.
can go from there. Go
Yeah,
from there next time. All
sounds
right.
good.
Always a pleasure.
Always a
See
pleasure.
you next time.
See you next time. Happy Thanksgiving.
Yeah, you too. Goodbye.
Bye.